Hello and welcome back to another We Ourselves video. And today I want to give my review or comments on The Spider Within, a Spider-Verse story. Now, this is an original short animated film that was done in partnership with the Kevin Love Fund and Disney Animation. And let me read what it says. The Spider Within, a Spider-Verse story, was developed and produced in the inaugural year of the Sony Pictures Animation and Sony Pictures Imageworks, leading and empowering new storytellers through the Lens program, a 9-month leadership training program that provides candidates from underrepresented groups with an opportunity to gain valuable leadership experience in animation. And the Kevin Love Fund deals with students, young people, and their mental health awareness. So as such, it's not surprising that the short film begins with Miles Morales arriving home from a heavy day of being a student, a friend, and the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And you see flashes and images of all of that happening and him taking a beating from some of these villains that he has to subdue. And his dad is planning an evening just for them to talk and hang out and watch some scary movies. Because it seems clear to me that his dad senses that something's going on with Miles, and so he's giving Miles an opportunity for them to sit down, spend some time together, and possibly talk. But of course, Miles declines to hang out with his dad. Instead, he goes to his room and he lies down, and you see him having a panic attack. And from there, it leads into him having a nightmare. He's facing that dark shadow part of himself, the one that he can't tell anybody about. So he goes through a nightmare and you see him suffer all of that. But once he wakes up, he finally realizes that he needs to talk to somebody. So he goes back out into the den and he reaches out to his dad. And peace ends with him and his dad going for a walk, and you hear Miles start to tell him about his life. Now, of course, we know he can't tell him about being Spider-Man, but at least he's reaching out to his father, a responsible adult, and he's getting help to help deal with his anxiety and all the conflicts and things that are going on. And again, the whole thing is about mental health, and so they decided to do this using the Miles Morales character, which is a very popular character. In terms of the story, it is what it is. It serves its purpose. Of course, the animation is similar to the movies. The characters, of course, are the same characters voiced by the same people, but it's not as crazy and intense as it is in the movies. And I think one review said that it is more down to earth. Again, that's because it's dealing with a very important topic, particularly for young Black men. And I know some people get upset when you say that, but the reality is for young Black boys and men in the United States, this is an incredibly hard road for them to travel. They are under constant psychological, emotional, spiritual, if you want to say that, attacks through the images in the media, negative expectations from the larger community, no matter what their social economic status in which they are raised. And so, yes, this is a very important thing, particularly for Black men in general. I wholeheartedly support that aspect of getting mental health because we need it now more than ever. I also support the program targeting these underrepresented groups. You don't get a lot of opportunities for these targeted underrepresented groups, not only to be in leadership, but just to be in the room and be in these jobs anyway. Because a lot of it is networking and who you know. This is very important, particularly being in a leadership role, not only learning all the process for animation, but being in those leadership roles. And one of the other reasons that I really support this whole thing is it reminds me of the work I did when I was working with young students in the school system where I worked. Now, I was dealing with third-year TV students, and I would take them through the entire production process. One of the things that I always loved to do was to work with minority students, Black and Latino males, Asian males, and ironically, women of all color, even young white women, because in this industry, in television, it's overwhelmingly male and white. And the same thing happened with the TV classes, overwhelmingly male and white, and most of the teachers were white males. And so even the women were underrepresented and did not have the opportunities to be in leadership roles. So when I worked with the students, that's what I really focused on. You know, I took them, like I said, took them through the whole production process. Like this program, you come up with your story, your idea, you script it out, and then you start into the pre-production process, and then you go to the production itself, and then post-production, and they always had to present their short film that they did in some kind of way. And I was there supporting them the entire time. And I was particularly keen on that production side where they are directors And everybody there on the set is there to make their vision come to life. And being in that leadership role, it was important for me to have them experience that. And I saw the positive benefit and confidence for these young creatives as they graduated and then went on into their adult creative lives. This type of program hits home for me because it's the type of things that I sought to do at my level where I was with the minority students that I worked with. But if there's one thing, and you know me, if there's one thing that I want to nitpick about is when it comes to the Miles Morales character himself. And I want to mention this because, again, as I said, it's a hard road for these young black men and boys to walk. But one of the things that I noticed when it comes to Miles Morales, particularly when it came to the first film, was the sense of him being afraid. Now, I understand in the short film itself, him having the panic attack, it fits the subject. That's important. And in the first Spider-Man movie, he's scared. He doesn't know what's happening. He's learning his powers. He's going through these changes. It fits. But the one thing that always kind of bothered me, even now when I go back and watch that first movie and I kind of cringe a little bit through it, is the way they demonstrate him being afraid is the high-pitched scream. And I know some of you might say it's nitpick, but follow me here. It was okay in the first film, even if I thought it was done a little much. It was okay because by the end, he was in control. When you get to the end of the film and he has that "What's Up Danger" scene and he jumps off the building, he's confident. And you see him fire those webs and they catch, and then he goes to that entire sequence, and the music is playing in the background. And even at the end, when he lands on the building and he takes the thing off and he's breathing, and then he has that grin on his face. He's done it. He's grown. He's overcome his lack of confidence. He's able to use his power. And then when he goes forward, he's smooth. He's in total control. No more high-pitched screams. And at the end, when Gwen shows up, you see it on his face. You see that when he opens his eyes, he realizes that she's reaching out to him and he sees her. You see that confident grin on his face because they've literally been through life and death together. That's character growth. But then when it came out with the first teaser and trailer for the next movie, they went back to showing him falling through, I forget which one of the universes it was, but he's doing the high-pitched scream again and stuff like that. And it's like, but that's not him. He's grown past that. Why go back to that thing? Because you're dialing him back to where he was in the first movie when he was first learning how to use his powers and he didn't know what the hell was going on. And it actually frightened me that they were going to do him like they did Finn from the Star Wars trilogy. No matter what kind of character development Finn went through for the first two movies, and particularly, they kept dialing him back to the start. They kept making him be afraid. Even John Boyega himself complained that he was the first human character in Star Wars who was totally afraid and running from the action. He complained about that. He says, I basically became the stereotype of the fear and the joke. And so I was afraid that they were doing this with Miles. And so like 3 movies out, 2 mainstream movies and 1 short, they've resorted to using the high-pitched scream with Miles, and it's becoming the go-to for this character no matter his character development. And that, if there's one thing I have to nitpick about, is that. Because, they already kind of draw Miles with a lot of wide-eyed expressions, and that kind of skirts kind of close because one of them negative stereotypes for black men in American cinema is the bug-eyed, afraid black man. That was funny to the bigots who came up with that, but you still see that trope maintaining itself. And so the way they drew Miles got close to that a lot of times, but then when you add in the high-pitched scream, it's like that, to me, that saps the idea of this young black man, this hero, this superhero, becoming confident, learning his craft, and being smooth with it. You can't be smooth if you're still bug-eyed and high-pitched screaming. And it worries me that that's becoming the go-to for Miles. Even when these young, independent, new creators came, it's like the ones they were working with, oh, this is the go-to, or because they've seen Miles do that now for 2 movies. Again, him having a panic attack was done very well. I like that. But then we had to resort to him doing the high-pitched scream through even most of the short film. And to me, it skirts too close to a very negative stereotype. Doing these projects, having these new people in there and these young people in there, that's one thing, but it has to be a total package. Just having the representation, as we have seen, doesn't mean anything if they have to adhere to the same program, the same system, if they have to tell the same subpar stories as the NAACP's report said. If the black creatives and other underrepresented creators, when they get a chance at bat, if they have to produce the same subpar representation, then it's not any good. You're just maintaining the system. It has to be a total overhaul. So either allow these new people not to have to take these characters and make them subpar, or let them really tell genuine stories from their point of view. And we have to instill in them that you don't have to play the stereotypes. Don't believe that that's all that Black people or these target audience wants, because that's what the dominant culture tells you and makes you think. Everybody is talking about being authentic. Well, we need to be really authentic. Be true for where you come from. Tell the stories from where you come from. Like I said, this was done very well. It's just the representation of Miles. I'm just concerned that in the next Spider-Verse movie, and I think it's Beyond the Spider-Verse, and they're even talking about they may even do a fourth one. At this point, I'm afraid they're going to find a way to make Miles afraid and high-pitched screaming again, even though this young man is far past that in realistic character development. None of the other Spider-Man, even the animated Spider-Man, are doing that. And I don't want them to saddle this young man, this character, with that borderline negative Black stereotype. And that's my only concern going forward. I really support what they're doing, the mental health awareness, as well as giving underrepresented groups the opportunity to be in leadership role. But if I just had one thing to say to Sony.
Stop. Stop.
That's my take on this. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. I mean, it's good. Like I said, it's just my nitpick. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. And as always, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next video.